G'day, welcome back to Flat Tank Friday. Welcome to Flat Tank Journey, my channel. That's set about just to profile flat tank motorbikes from the teens, 20s and my enjoyment of them. This week, back in the shed again. Just thought I'd reflect on a video I did earlier. One of my first videos from my channel was about my 1926 AJS. I thought I'd tell you a little bit more about it and we'll have a walk around and close up of the bike. It was a funny experience to get it. It came to me by accident. I wasn't looking for it. It just kind of turned up. A friend was going through a small country town, about a half an hour's drive from our home. He saw a guy unloading two old bikes into kind of a second-hand goods store. The guy that owns the store is renowned throughout this region as a scrapper and a breaker, and he collects house lots, job lots, and he buys and sells and trades. My friend rang me and sent me a picture and said, "Think you better come and have a look." So I went down almost straight away, maybe half an hour. Had a look, and the AJS was there, and a pretty rough rudge that was a little bit later than this and didn't have a lot of appeal to me. They were expensive, or I thought they were at the time. I tried to barter a bit, but that didn't go so well. The guy had had them in the store all of an hour and a half, 2 hours. I went back the next day with the cash and bought the AJS, and that was the end of it. A friend had advised me that take it home, put it under a sheet, eventually you'll feel better about it. It's pretty hard to get complete, original-ish old bikes. So I bought it home. Before I put it under the sheet to try and feel better about it, which took me about 3 or 4 years to feel better about how much I'd paid for it, I tried to get it to start. And you can go back and watch the video about that. It took 2 goes to get it to start, and maybe a couple of hours of time though. I drained what was left of the oil. I cleaned out the fuel lines, took them off the bike, cleaned out the oil lines, took them off the bike, cleaned out the carby, and it ran. It really did. It was amazing. It's still relatively easy to start after you've done a little bit of maintenance. So, Flat Tank Friday this week. Let's have a look around the bike, and you can enjoy if you want, and if you don't, that's okay too. Well, let's take a look at the AJS. It's a little bit rough in places, but it is just the way I like it, I think. It did come with the dilemma of, do you strip it, paint it, re-nickel it, and make it picture perfect again? That had been what I'd done in the past, and I was confronted with that dilemma. I did seek some advice in online forums and things, and everybody said, leave it alone, don't touch it. Only a few people wanted to restore it. I've never owned a complete bike before. I've never owned a bike, or bought a bike, that came to me in one complete chunk and that ran. That was a pretty easy decision to make in the end once it ran. So let's have a look at it. Let's start up here on the bars. The bars, I believe, are original. The throttle cable was broken when I got it, and I thought that was the end of it, but as it turned out, inside there was some throttle mechanism missing, and I remade that. I've got a little lathe in the corner that you might have seen, and I remade the centre pull throttle, and it works pretty well. It's pretty smooth. Put new cable in it. The lever that was there is the lever there. I didn't do anything about a grip. I left it exactly as it is. The bars are completely devoid of any sort of paint. I believe they were painted, or at least they were at one stage, and you can see the paint just there. Coming across, I don't know that it's an original advance and retard lever, but it's certainly got age about it. The clutch lever is not original. It should have an inverted lever. It has part of the canvas grip still there, and I leave it alone. I try not to pull at it and try not to mess with it. The end is on the bar and is still got remnants of nickel on it. Let's have a look down into the linkages for the girder forks. Looking in there, you can still see there's a lot of grease in there. The grease was maybe 1/4 of an inch thick in places when I got it. I took to it with WD-40 to begin with, and then smoothed away some of the grease to make sure I didn't have any damage. I tried not to chisel at it. I tried not to make a mess of the nickel. The whole thing is still in relatively good nick. Nothing appears to be missing. Is it all perfectly original as it left the factory? I don't know, but I'm not messing with it. There's remnants of nickel and there's remnants of paint on the forks. I gather AJS's had a propensity to lose their paint, and that's certainly the case with this bike. There's very little original black paint left on the frame. The guards are almost devoid of paint. They've got a bit of surface rust, a lot of dirt, but not a lot of paint. Coming down the forks, you can see the springs. There's a big split in the guard, and there's been a riveted repair done to the guard, which I absolutely love. Shows that there was a problem with the guards. They put a patch in, riveted it in to give it strength. They didn't replace anything, just riveted it up. The same across the front. I think the rivets disappeared and there's square nuts on bolts. Looking down the front fork, the front wheel, small drum brake, remnants of paint, almost no paint left on the rim whatsoever. Bead edge tyres, don't think they're original, but certainly they're the tyres that were on it when I got it. They're in relatively good condition, although I've got a flat tyre on the back and it won't hold air, so it needs repaired. As I said, almost no paint left. Looking inside the hub, still got the oiler sitting inside, and then the guard stays, which don't look right to me. Very flat, doesn't look right, but maybe they're original. I absolutely love the heavy piece of canvas or leather. It is so dry and crusty, it's ridiculous. It's obviously there to keep water off the magneto. It was a patch or a bodge that somebody put in place, and I think it shows the inventiveness of motorcyclists from a time gone by. Coming up towards the engine and the frame, and if you're looking at the frame, the paint is gone, like it's worn away. There's nothing left, no black at all, right down to where the engine mounts are. Pulling away a bit, you can see the 350 side valve. Not a big port, nothing fancy, no big dollar bike, especially when it was new, although it would have been a challenge for a man to own. The bike engine itself, it's in pretty good nick. There's a few fins broken, but not many, and I certainly won't repair them. It cleaned up really well. When I got the bike, that engine didn't look like that. My decision with the bike was to clean it, and so I put it on the lift, put towels underneath it, and started spraying it with WD-40. About a can a week for about 4 or 5 weeks. After about week 3, the dirt started to wash off, and I was spraying it very liberally, and the dirt was just flowing down onto the towel. Eventually, I took to the engine with a can of carby cleaner and just did the same. I just washed the engine from the outside so that it was as clean as I could get it. Wiped it over with a rag, did the same with the gearbox, and that's the outcome I got. I regularly oil it, turn it over, and just keep it going. It's had a new spark plug lead at some stage, so that tells me that at some stage somebody got it going, other than me. At the moment, I've got the fuel pipe disconnected. I've drained the fuel out, but I'm going to put that back on, put some fresh fuel in it, clean the carby, and we're going to go for a ride in a week or two. Again, looking at the frame, the paint's almost gone where the gearbox mounts. Very, very little of it left. The header pipe, original probably, comes down past the foot peg. Of course I put new rubbers on it, the new nut on the end. There was no rubbers on the bike at all. Just makes it more comfortable to ride. The silencer, got a piece missing. I don't lose sleep over it. The rear stand is in good condition. Got paint on it, surprisingly. Got an old tax disc holder. Sadly the tax discs are missing, but I didn't touch it. Come up to the seat. I'm not sure whether it's an original seat, but I love the electrical tape put on it, bodged together, held in place to keep it going. I'm not going to remove it. It's more of a canvasy style cover than it is a leather. It's hard to tell, but I like it. Seat springs are still good, even holds my weight. The rear guard is in good condition. Not a lot of paint, but in good condition. It's well caked inside with grease and muck, but it looks good. The rear carrier is still in place, and they generally disappear. There's no toolboxes, and there's a small lug being cut off just there. Not sure what it was for, and it's got a little bend in it, but again, it's serviceable and it looks the part. The rear wheel's the perplexing one for me. I'm not sure whether you can see, but it's blue. It's been painted a dark blue at some stage. I didn't realise that until I cleaned it up. It's an intriguing anomaly on the bike. Is it an original colour? Is it a different wheel? Did somebody just take to it with a brush and decided they liked blue? I don't know. You can look in, see the hub. Oil is still in place, bolted right through, in good condition. Bearings are full of grease, absolutely chock-a-block. Because I don't ride it much, I haven't disassembled it. Come around the back, I have it on a club permit, I do ride it. The rear stand clip's in place, the number plate holder is in place, and what was a tail light is in place, but it's well damaged. You can look back down the bike, and the bike is straight and clean, and it rides really well. Let's move around the other side of the bike. Alright, let's have a look at the left hand side of the bike. You can get a close look at the front guard. She's got some dints in her. The rivets look great. Again, still fascinated that somebody did all that. It went into replacing it. It wasn't a replace society, it was a fix. Make do. We're in a different society now. Again, this side of the forks are in really quite good nick for its age. Come down, close up of the front brake, which I believe is correct. Somebody did tell me that the bike had had a different front wheel put in it at one stage. I can't sustain that, and I don't know whether that's true or not. I put a new brake cable in it, as you can see. The brake cable was missing. It all fitted up well. The brakes are as good as you might suspect they are. Coming back down the bike, you can see the large piece of canvas or leather. I think it's canvas that somebody's put in to protect the mag dyno. You can see the mag dyno there. The wires are still all hooked up. It's very dirty. The dynamo doesn't charge, but the magneto certainly does. Let's see the bars. Left hand side of the bars and a better look at the clutch side and the magneto, the advance and retard. The lever, the clutch lever, again, I adjusted the cable. It isn't correct. The cable's got a weird adjuster on the end of it. It has been put on as a later addition, but it's certainly got some age about it. There's the grip. You can see the layers of the canvas, and you can see how they're torn back. I don't know whether that's correct or whether somebody wrapped that as a repair job. I imagine it was rubber at some stage. And there's the bar end and what's left where the inverted lever used to go through. Coming in on the oil pump mechanism, the hand pump, and the fuel and the oil cap, they all look original to me and look to be in good nick. They certainly work. The oil pipe needed cleaned, and I actually took it off and fed a piece of light wire through it to clean it out. The tap still works, there's still nickel on it, and it runs cleanly down to the engine. This side of the engine cleaned up well. The WD-40 and the carby cleaner did a brilliant job. The other side of the carby, the bowl, the tickler, a relatively well-loved fuel pipe that's got some kinks and twists in it, and you can see the nut down the bottom because I've got the fuel pipe disconnected. The chain case, it is well loved. It's been repaired and there's pieces missing. I ride it pretty carefully, as you can see, because those two spin fairly quickly, and so you keep your pants leg tucked into your sock like you did when you were a kid riding a bicycle. It's been silver soldered and repaired on numerous occasions, and not well. It doesn't have an ounce of paint left on it, but it still functions, and I'd be very loath to take it off the bike and do anything to it. The rear chain guard's still in place, and I love it. It shows that hasn't been removed. It hasn't been fiddled with, because they were things that are always missing off a bike. The rear brakes function, not super well, but I suspect as well as they ever did. The chain sprocket is still in reasonably good condition, and the actuating arm, whilst it's got a largish washer where it attaches, looks to be original and looks to be in good nick. The brake pedal is one of my favourite parts of the bike. It's worn on the edge where a man would have put his foot on it, and it's just worn the pattern off. The foot peg rubbers are what I could get that would fit neatly. This side had the original nut and washer on it, and I left those there and just fitted the rubber over the top. Another look at the seat from the left hand side. The springs, the mountings underneath, and you can see in it the dirt and the grease. It's a lovely old bike. It's an enjoyable thing to own. It's a privilege to have, and I'll try and keep it running and in this condition, more or less, until I need to pass it on to the next person, which hopefully will be a long time. Well, that's Flat Tank Friday for another week. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe, hit the like button, and if you don't, that's okay too. See you again.